Shall we start with his broadcast first and what he had to say?
Well, basically, the upshot was once again, it seemed to be a series of grievances. And obviously, he talked about marijuana seemed to be good for him and he was happy with that, but not cocaine. Then he's talking about, I need my family to go and do some therapy to speak my language. Well, California language is slightly different from central London language. Yes. And clearly, I mean, I don't know what he's on to think that. Why? So he's basically saying everyone's got to come to his level, that he is the centre of attention. And this is the sad part about the whole thing. It's all about him. And it's not about really what any of the other members of his family think or feel. It's his own feelings. He wasn't hugged. Well, in a way, his upbringing probably meant that it wasn't necessarily a hugging family. That type of family, if I speak from personal experience, it's not necessarily hugs is not what you do in the confines. And certainly if you look at Charles's upbringing, his mother and father went on 6 months tour and just left the children to get on with it. And they were very distant parents. So, and that's
Princess Diana in particular was very huggy, wasn't she? She was a kisser and a cuddler and a hugger.
Absolutely.
And also was absolutely adamant to make sure that William came on tour with them to Australia. She wasn't going to fly off and leave her babies anywhere. She was all about ruffling their hair and giving them a little push and a punch and a kiss and a cuddle and a squeeze, wasn't she? That was what she was all about. So he definitely wasn't an unloved, child that never had a parent that was demonstrative or said she loved him, was he?
No, but what he also seemed to saying that she loved him more than William. Well, I don't think that was the case, because she was very adamant when she was alive that I need to make sure both of them are treated equally because I've got to protect them. That was her way of saying, right, it was an uncomfortable arrangement, a divorced family, and we know what that's about, and it's not fun. And obviously in the full glare of publicity, certainly in the 90s, it was never going to be something easy to manage, but she did her level best to try and protect them. But you see that, it probably wasn't easy for the king to sort of be a demonstrative hugger, but he did his best. Now, clearly, it wasn't necessarily easy for him, but it's almost as if, woe is me. Everything seems to have been a problem. Yet, if I remember rightly, he seemed to be quite happy in the military. He's then saying in the military, it's from divorced families. Well, I went into the military. I wasn't from a divorced family, but if you're a member of the royal family, you go into the military, it's what you do.
Yes.
It's almost, because it's very hard to find you necessarily a normal job, but actually that's what most members of the royal family actually do.
But actually, when he was in the military, he did incredibly well, didn't he? He was brave, he was liked, he liked his mates, he was himself. People didn't expect him to be any other way. They took him as a professional. He was a good professional. He was competent and excellent, and he kind of grew in confidence and in kind of expertise in a way that he'd never done at school, because he wasn't any good at school. He could never grasp anything much at school. This really was the making of the man, wasn't it, his military career?
Yes, and actually the Invictus Games has been his greatest legacy.
And apparently his father, the king, was absolutely awe-stricken when he saw the Invictus Games.
Absolutely.
And said it was fantastic and said it was amazing and said, my darling boy, you've done so well and that kind of a thing. So it wasn't as if, he saw the Invictus Games and said it was absolute rubbish and stormed out. The opposite, really.
No, the Invictus Games is probably amongst, what he's done there, galvanised it, because obviously he had contacts. He saw what happened in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Yes, he was also saying that in the army, if you were just an ordinary soldier, you just got on with it. Well, you had to get on with it. That was your job. Once you signed up that dotted line and you're in the services, whether you agree or disagree, unfortunately, is your job, and you get on with it. Now, so therefore, I don't understand where he's coming from there, because clearly, I was in the army, and I didn't necessarily. I was put into places, and you think, well, I've just got to get on with it. That's my job.
To do that, job,
and your sense of duty. So at the same time, this is where you think this is all a bit disingenuous, and suddenly the sort of over-analysing it, when actually it was just the job, and every soldier, yes, you sign up, you probably don't, you're not necessarily expecting to do things, but unfortunately, once you sign and you're in the services, you're not really in a position to question it. And so therefore, I just feel this latest sort of broadcast, I didn't spend the £19.99 to get a free copy, to get a free copy of Spare, and it's just sad, really. And then, but the coronation, let's talk about that. So the coronation, the situation, the state of play seems to be that Harry and Meghan have been invited and have as yet refused to respond to the invitation, which is, to me, incredibly rude, because we know that Princess Diana, the late Princess Diana, would sort of kick her shoes off at Kensington Palace but not go to bed until she'd already written her thank you letters at night, would she? Well, and she wouldn't approve of them not replying to such a formal and important invitation, would she? I think when you get an invitation, okay, emails rather than a sort of nice card that would come. Would it not have been a card? I assumed it would be a card. Well, I don't think he needs to. Right. Saying, are you coming? And I think that might have just been the tone of it. You know, we'd love you to be there because that's what the king wants. But if he's got to go into some sort of negotiation process, then actually, why do they need to bother? Because that's not the point. Other members of the royal family are just going to go there, do as they're told, get in there, told to stand where they're told to stand, and just say this is the King's day. And that's what the whole point is. It's not Meghan and Harry's day. If they don't want to be part of seeing, in his case, his father's most important and significant moment of what he's waited 70-odd years for. So long, yes, such a long wait, absolutely. And to celebrate that, then... And if we've got to go through some sort of negotiation process before they turn up, that just feels wrong. He should be just saying, it's my dad's day. I know there's a lot of hassle going on. I'll just turn up and celebrate my father's most significant moment. What a wait he's all his life for, to serve this country as the king. And on the kind of cynical side of things, isn't it important for Harry and Meghan and what people might describe as their brand that they do go? Because if their brand is that they are the Sussexes, they are royal, and that was what their brand name was, wasn't it? Sussex Royal. But if they don't go to the coronation, they're not seen with the King, they're not seen with Queen Camilla, they're not seen with Prince William and Kate. They won't seem very royal, and it won't do them much good, will it? No, and you think their brand's had a bit of a hit in America, because if you've got South Park, and then you've got Chris Rock, absolutely going hot deep with his sort of lampooning of Meghan and and he's famous for doing that. You think, well, if he's doing it, you know, their shtick's not quite as good as it used to be, so they've got to now rebrand themselves and sort of regroup. But if every time you see this sort of woe is me, and again, even on Saturday night, you had the woe is me element, where's the joy? Where's it? Does he look happy when we see this? No, he just feels like he's a victim of everything. Yet he talks about he's got the space with his children and everything. Well, let's see the smiling, happy Harry, if that's where he's at. And then he'll be helped to rebrand. But if every time we have to see him, it's basically something, I've got a grievance about something, somewhere. Sorry, move on. You're an entitled man. You've got everything you need. Yeah, interesting, isn't it, that the Americans seem to be losing patience too. It's not just us. No, I think the killer moment, because if America loses and where they're trying to seem to be extra relevant, I'm sure there are still numbers of people who support them and believe in what he's doing, and fine, excellent. But at the same time, I think you've now got to see where you've got to move on, because once you've done the thing and had a problem, why he left, now you've got to say is right, reboot. And any business, and he's now going to have to reboot brand Sussex into a business that now seems energetic and not just a whinge fest. OK, in a word, one word, because that's all we've got time for. Do you think that Harry and Meghan will or will not attend the coronation? Yes. I think so too.